right.
Just read the whole book.
I already did that for the audiobook. It took 12 hours. Did you listen to it? Is it good? I haven't heard it.
Awesome.
I recorded it, but I haven't heard it yet. Thanks. It's weird to record something and then not listen back to it. I've never done that ever, really. Thanks. I'm glad you like it. Why'd you listen to the audiobook instead? No judgment. I think it's great, but why did you audiobook it instead of booking it? Oh. I have to admit, like, this weird kind of ignorance before I put this book out and watched what happened. I didn't really know people listened to audiobooks. I thought it was like some very small, weird cult of people. But yeah, I didn't realize it was such a thing. No, it makes me happy. I think it's awesome. Commutes, everyone has a car. Moms. Yeah, and Texas, cars, distance. Okay. Buy the audiobook. I actually think the audiobook is, I don't know if I would feel that good promoting the audiobook if I didn't read it. Because the shit is so personal. That if someone else had read it, I think I'd be really scared that they would fuck it up. Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't read their own audiobooks, even if it's a memoir. Which is creepy. Isn't it? Isn't it kind of creepy? I don't know. I would be creeped out.
It feels really personal hearing you read it.
Okay. So right around the time of my insomniac meltdown, and you're just getting dropped into the book, you're just going to have to go back and read the beginning about the insomniac meltdown. That's how the book starts. As the sun rose and the sheep mourned before the Scotland family wedding party, I've been battling a nasty urinary tract infection. And by the day after the party, which went fine, by the way, it morphed its evil, sneaky way into a full-blown kidney infection. And I found an emergency health clinic in the rural Scottish Highlands to treat me. And before the nurse gave me the extra high-powered antibiotics that I'd been prescribed, she asked, was I allergic to anything? No. Was I pregnant? Taking any other medications? Well, I wanted to make a joke about how she might want to refer me to a psychiatric professional because I felt like I was losing my fucking mind. But she was so nice and Scottish. She handed over the antibiotics, they worked, the kidney infection cleared up within a few days, which was good, and we had rented a big place in Edinburgh for a month to accommodate a ton of house guests, plus Neil's kids, plus my band, and I had a string of shows booked with Evelyn, and a bunch of rehearsing to do to start prepping the Kickstarter. And we'd been looking forward to this month-long working vacation for ages, anticipating a non-stop parade of dinner parties, theater outings, and spontaneous fringe festival adventures. But I wasn't in the mood. My body hurt, my kidneys hurt, my soul hurt, my skin was breaking out, and I'd been listlessly staying in bed, and that wasn't like me. And that night before the family wedding party, it really actually frightened me. And I couldn't shake the crazy feeling. And one afternoon, while Neil was off doing press and all of our guests were off at fun activities, I didn't have rehearsal, and I decided to peel myself out of bed to go for a jog. It was a frigid, foggy day, the type that you keep thinking just shouldn't be allowed to happen in the month of August, no matter how many times you've been to Scotland. And I stepped outside, bundled up in running gear, with a sweater and a scarf, and I started to run, and I felt the life force slowly oozing back into me. And I looked like shit, and I felt like shit, but god damn it, I had left the house. And I took a deep breath, looking at the beauty of the old Scottish architecture, and I felt my mood, finally, for the first time in weeks, lifting. And 4 blocks later, I slipped on a loose brick of the sidewalk and twisted my ankle. And I lay there, sprawled on the bricks, emitting a small moan, while ready to explode with laughter at the poetry of it all. Really? I couldn't put any weight on my foot, and I was going to need to ask a passing stranger for help, because I had nothing on me. No phone, no money, just my house keys. And it was a quiet street, but a woman about my age wearing a smart raincoat saw me and stopped to help. And then another woman, an older one, stopped as well, and my fellow humans were coming to my aid. Are you all right there? Not in a mess. No, I'm not, I said, trying to look amiable. I've twisted my ankle and I can't really walk. Oh dear, said the older woman. And a third woman wandered up behind them. Do you need an ambulance? The first woman asked. I tried to get up to put a little weight on my ankle, but it shot back lightning signals of agony. I don't know, I said, trying not to cry. I think it's just twisted, but I'm not sure I need a hospital. But I can't walk, I can't put any weight on it. Well, how can we help? Yes, is there anything we can do? And they huddled around me in a concerned triptych like a bunch of mother hens. I grimaced as a new searing pain shot up my leg, but I tried to express my gratitude. Well, yes, thank you. Sorry, thank you. You're so kind. Could one of you maybe just grab a cab and hop in it with me? Because I don't have any cash on me because I'm on a job, but the house is literally 4 blocks away, and I just need someone to jump in and help get me inside the house so I can pay the cab driver. And the 3 women all looked at one another, and then at me, and then at one another. No. They said collectively. But is there anything else we can do? And I was dumbstruck and humiliated. Are you sure you don't want us to just call an ambulance? Did they think that I was trying to trick them? I was a 35-year-old woman in jogging clothes with a twisted ankle on a quiet street in Scotland. We weren't in a fucking Dickens novel. One of them was at least kind enough to help me hobble over to a passing cab, and I threw myself at the mercy of the driver, who drove me the 4 blocks, took my arm, and then half carried me up through our front door and into the kitchen, where I thanked him profusely and gave him a 20-pound tip. Are you all right, love? He said kindly. I knew I looked like hell. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm really fine. I'm great. Thank you so much. And he left, closing the door behind him. And I hobbled over to the sink, ran some cold water over my leg, and then started sobbing uncontrollably. And in that moment, I couldn't tell which hurt more, my ankle or my heart. Brene Brown writes, in a 2011 study funded by the National Institute on Drug Abuse, researchers found that as far as the brain is concerned, physical pain and intense experiences of social rejection hurt in the same way. Neuroscience advances confirm what we've known all along. Emotions can hurt and cause pain. And just as we often struggle to define physical pain, describing emotional pain is difficult. And shame is particularly hard because it hates having words trapped around it. It hates being spoken. I was walking around Edinburgh on crutches. I was an emotional mess, and to cap it all off, my period was really late. And while Neil waited at the table, I'd eat on a stick in a restaurant, and sat there in the bathroom, absolutely stunned, and then strangely relieved by the result. So that's why I've become a crazy person. I'm a hormonal mess. I'm pregnant. And all of a sudden, my flailing worries about whether or not to take a business loan from my husband, or whether or not I was crazy to be grappling with the dilemma in the first place, seemed completely insignificant. Because what did it matter whether or not I was going to be a few grand short or borrowing money from this guy because I was carrying his child? And Neil and I left the restaurant, walked home, and cuddled each other in bed for the next 12 hours in shock. And it wasn't until the next morning that the nurse's question echoed back into my head. And I Googled the name of the antibiotic I had taken. And pregnant women were strictly warned to avoid it because of birth defects. And so I called our family doctor. It's not good, Amanda. That's very risky, especially in the first trimester, because that antibiotic blocks the effects of folic acid, which is crucial to the fetus at the beginning of pregnancy. Well, what do you mean risky? I asked. How risky? And how not good? Really, really not good. He hesitated. And as your doctor, I'm afraid I'd advise you to terminate the pregnancy. Neil and I spent a hard few days in bed together, talking and accepting the decision and spooning each other, and I cried a lot. And the day of the abortion itself was a nightmare, and I don't remember it very clearly. I lay in a hospital bed in Edinburgh, having taken the pill I was prescribed, and I threw up, and I slept, and then I woke up, and then I threw up again, feeling powerless, my whole body and my whole heart in pain, and I didn't know what to feel. And Neil sat there beside my bed the whole time, holding my hand and saying nothing. And then I hid away and spent a few weeks in bed with a hot water bottle on my abdomen, trudging out for rehearsals and shows, and trudging back to bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling like an empty shell of a human being. And Neil was just as sad as I was, possibly sadder. And he withdrew from talking, and he got quiet. And he got distant. And my usual life of colorful online back and forth became anemic. And I told the band, and I told a few friends who were staying with us, but I didn't want to tell the world because, for a lot of reasons, I couldn't. And I wasn't ready for that. And keeping it secret made everything feel even lonelier, and I wanted to reach out to everyone I knew on my blog and on Twitter, and I wanted to feel their warm arms, and I wanted to tweet the entire harrowing story to my fans and make a joke. But there was no way I was going to do that. I just stopped doing anything, feeling more and more broken. And as the days wore on, I got more and more upset with Neil. And I knew he was having a hard time, but I was the one stuck in bed, bleeding, nauseated, and weak. He brought me Scottish-style hot water bottles and things to eat and drink. But he was really quiet. He wasn't saying anything. And I didn't need a selfless faucet of sympathy, but I wanted him to stroke my cheek, to ask how I was feeling, to give me a good cuddle. But he stayed silent. And with every passing day, he felt further and further away. And I started wondering if I'd made a horrible mistake getting married. What was I thinking? Who was this guy anyway? Didn't he care? He was physically there, but he felt like a ghost. And I knew what I needed, but asking for specific emotional things just felt impossible and obnoxious. He was a human being. He should just instinctively know how to take care of an emotionally exhausted, sick, post-abortion wife. He ought to just know.